Okay, I finished the book Northwest Passage. It's a very amazing novel. It's pure fiction. The man who wrote it is long dead. It was written in 1936, and it's about one first perspective of a guy who lived in the greatness and the shadow of the greatness of a military leader who went on to become governor, and then he went on to a successful life that kind of crashed all towards the end. It's very historically accurate, very big too. This took a long time to read. I think this is the republished version, because 1936, 1937 is just incredible. I don't think this book would be that old. It says 1970 anyway, so it's this is the republished version. But a lot of the references are very historically accurate. There's just the way the Indians lived back in the 1750s. Is just well described. See, it goes into great detail of the sights, smells, sounds, all this. It really appeals to all the senses when you use your imagination of what it's like. But yeah, he's a unique storyteller. There's really no romance. There's like no deep romances in this book, which is fine. He makes way. I mean, there are some love interests and pinings towards each other, but this is definitely not a romance book. It's a real adventurous book, which I appreciate. Just getting out there and exploring territories. I mean, that's the whole point of the Northwest Passage. Is this is the mid-1700s, before the Revolution started, and this actually ends right at the Revolution, 1776. So you got the English still out there, not well liked by the Americans, because the Stamp Act was just put in the process in the 1750s or so. They were at war with the French, and it's like the Americans really despised the French and Indians. I think the French-Indian Wars were going on, and the English were helping everybody. Were helping them out. The English and Americans were a bit on each other's, the same side of each other, fighting the French and Indians. But when the French had to eventually give in, then yeah, I believe the Americans and British the Americans started asking for more freedom themselves, just because they were so separate from Britain, and Britain was still trying to impose their king, the monarchy on them and stuff. They're doing a lot of things that Americans didn't agree with. Yeah, I made a bunch of notes here, but it's hard to describe without really going back into it. There's just little things that stood out that I wanted to write down. I read about what whist is. That's supposed to be a card game. There's such thing as a debtor's prison they talked about. The Indians of the Northwest Plains are too poor to even be worth fighting. Yeah, they talked about the prairie life there. Oh yeah, there's something about all the land you need. You don't need too much land. I mean, when you get buried, it only takes 6 feet by 2 feet, pretty much, of your your dead corpse. Yeah, there's just all kinds of interesting things. That the story goes that, I mean, this has been out for a while, so you had plenty of time to read it. They were part of a rangers group, and they had a mission to go destroy an Indian village, which they were successful, but they had the French on their tails the whole time. So then they had to outrun the French, and there were long periods of starvation and soldiers dying and losing their minds, because it's like the Green Berets. And then they finally got through that, and the story continued on after they survived such a harrowing type of adventure in the military, where they just the first person guy, he wanted to be an artist and went to Britain and came back and went to Britain again and came back, and there's a lot going on with Major Rogers. They made a movie out of this, but doesn't really convey the book. I made a little blog post on the about how there's a scene in here where a guy carried an Indian's head, and he did a lot. He did different things with the Indian's head in the book than he did with the movie. Completely different. Really takes away from the movie. Really takes away from the book. But yeah, this is a great book. I found it in the dumpster next to the library in Ocean Shores. They were throwing it away. I just took a little peek in the dumpster. I don't normally do that, but you know, being a library, I don't expect like too nasty of stuff in it. And I was throwing things away too, but just happened to see it in there. Great book. Yeah, I'd highly recommend it.